Well, what do you know? I guess I'm live and I'm all by myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. I am your one and only lonely host for the show this evening. So we may be being joined by others, we may not be being joined by others. I don't know. I was off last couple of weeks due to New Year's and the holiday, and yeah, I just I was tired. I really couldn't. I couldn't justify coming on in the mood that I was in with as tired as I was. But I'm here for your enjoyment this evening. And to be quite honest with you, I have paid zero attention to the news this week. I mean, yeah, there's. I'm still hearing about drones. I'm still hearing about orbs. Now I'm hearing about the California wildfires going everywhere. Mind you, here in North Carolina, we still have got 80 some odd people missing and hundreds of people without homes. And FEMA is still, not doing what they're supposed to do to help the people here. But we'll see how the folks in California deal with their $750 checks as soon as they actually get mail delivering to them. But I digress. Let's see. Mexico we have the Gulf of Mexico is now going to be called the Gulf of America. And Mexico is threatening to rename the United States Mexicana. They think it sounds pretty. Trump is up there looking at trying to take Greenland and make it a strategic, uh, you know, asset of the United States, and figures, well, he might as well fill in the void, and now let's take Canada too. Listen, the guy is like, he's what, 12 days from taking office. He is going to he's going to pull every string he can to piss off as many people as he can. If you don't know by now, I think all he's basically doing is just trying to get reactions from people to sort of gauge where they are a little bit in relationship to him taking office again. I think he's just getting a big laugh out of the whole thing. Do we want Canada as the 51st state? No, yeah, there's a tremendous amount of land and natural resources that we could benefit from, but there's also a tremendous amount of backward thinking that we would have to contend with that we just defeated in the last election. That we would have to bring all these people over who've been so indoctrinized into the socialistic system of universal health care, universal schooling, not being able to have firearms, not being able to speak their mind without fear of persecution or prosecution. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of conservatives up there, and it seems like the tide is turning, but is it really worth the risk when we would have to bring that many other people into the fold? Uh, is it going to happen? No, pipe dream. Could it happen? Yeah, we could walk into Canada, plant our flag, and call it done. Who's going to stop us? But that's not all. That's really, yeah, I don't think that's our style. And I think Trump, given everything that people say about him, he's a dictator, he's Mussolini, he's Hitler, he's this and that. I think all he's trying to do is just get a ruffle in people's, you know, get a ruffle out of them. That's it. I don't think he's got anything to do with actually being serious about these issues. I think we have more pressing matters, uh, more what another 10 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion, who knows how much money got sent over to the Ukraine today in more weapons funding. And, we were sitting here at dinner earlier, Lori and I were talking, and I said, I don't ever want to hear another government official turn around and say that we don't have the resources to take care of any one of our natural disasters. We are paying for everybody's war. We're paying for everybody else's retirement. We're paying for, you know, everybody else's freedom around the world. We're paying the freight for everybody else's security. And when Americans struggle due to a natural disaster, we don't have the resources for it. And I'm fed up with it. I can't tolerate that crap anymore. Dal, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Uh, Yeah, Dal worked a little late this evening, so he's a little late to the program this evening. He still has he so dedicated that he hasn't even taken his hat or his jacket off. Ran into the house and just logged right on. Hey Jan, good evening, dear. How are you? Jan's
Couldn't
on.
have you sitting there flying solo. Don't know what would happen. The whole channel might go up in flames.
With the way I'm feeling today, I mean, I have so I don't know. I have just completely emotionally detached myself from everything that's going on because it's like listen, every other day it's another frigging thing. It's
Yeah,
another thing and another thing, and it's like I'm getting to the point where it's not worth me even following it anymore because nothing is going to change. Nothing is changing. I mean, yeah, maybe with the new administration, some things you know, will start to make a little bit of sense. But until then, it's like, all right, the next 12 days, I just want to put my head in the sand and not even care what happens.
well, I think one of the big things that we're seeing now is, as you say, it's more of the same. Like they just came up with Mershon, who's going to try and sentence Trump in the next 2 days prior to prior to him going into office, and they're like, oh well, it's not going to come with jail time. We just want to finish out the trial and sentence him. And it's like, no, you want to do it because you want to be able to say that the state was able to rein in the president who is now a convicted felon. That's because without the sentencing, he's still not convicted, and
Right.
it's a load of bullshit anyway. So really, they ought to just drop the case, but they won't because they want the optics. And then you've
Well,
got
and
California on fire. That's happening.
well, listen, California. Listen, I have a love hate relationship with California because I know there's a lot of good Californians there. But 10 years ago, California voted for Proposition 1
Right.
to spend $7.6 billion to upgrade their water system, including storage facilities,
Mhm.
containment facilities, distribution centers, and all the rest of this stuff. Not one single containment system has
Right.
been completed since they spent this money. Not one.
They spend
So
money like New
the
York does at
well,
nothing.
so yeah, but they spend the money. Nobody does what they're supposed to do with it. You got your governor Greasy Hair over there. He just spent what a couple of $1 million,
Yeah.
$12 million on a brand new home on a $200,000 salary. Somebody want to explain to me where he got that money from? Because the math ain't mathing.
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
know
think
where
anybody gave him a $20 million book deal lately.
no. No, but there's the. I feel like we're being fleeced. You know that the American people have been, and we've been fleeced for so long. We just have come to expect it now. We don't pay attention to where it comes from, but it's coming from us. It's our money, and we're not seeing any benefit from it. It goes to their pockets. It goes to overseas entities. It goes to uh, at places where they'll get kickbacks, but they're not actually. Hey, how you doing, boss?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Feeling better?
Yep.
Yes,
Good.
mostly. Sorry, I just walked in from a meeting,
Yeah.
so I apologize for being late. The meeting went late. You guys can hear me all right then. I
Yes.
Yep.
take it. Okay. Where
But yeah,
do
I don't know where Newsom is getting this money. Hell, I don't even know where Hochul is getting the money because the state's pretty much bankrupt.
He's paying $18 million to take on IBM.
I don't know. I just they've gotten to the point where they used to do it behind closed doors and then they would get caught and then try to hide it. They got so used to getting away with how they hit it that now they don't do it behind closed doors.
Right.
And now they've gotten to the point where it's like, well, they're not even going to bother investigating where it came from. So not only do we have to not have to hide it, we don't even have to worry about getting investigated. So we're just going to do it right out in the public, right in the open, and steal everything we possibly can because
Yeah.
nobody is going to do anything.
Okay, wait a minute, let me catch up. What specific thing are we talking? There's a couple things with Hochul and Newsom, and which one
No,
are
we
we
were
talking?
just talking about how Governor California boy out there
Newsom, yeah.
has got millions of dollars to plunk down on a new house on his 200 and some odd $1,000 salary, and we're trying to figure out how is that even possible.
Now, is that money? Is that money that he's putting down on that house going to go up in smoke because of his legislation that keeps California from actually taking care of their forest land? Probably
Well,
not.
No, because if you remember, they also had legislation that they made sure that the wineries that they owned were taken care of when nobody else was.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know.
it-
It's like it's getting to the point where I think they realize they're on the way out as far as power goes. So they're going to just fleece everybody for everything they can between now and then because nobody's going to do anything about it. And they think that, there's not going to be recompense at some point. That whatever they're going to get away with is going to be, well, Trump ain't going to do nothing about it because it's a state matter. That's federal. He can't do anything about it. The district judges are all in their pocket. District attorneys are in their pocket. So nobody's ever going to investigate anything. So they can steal whatever they want because they're just going to steal money into the right pockets along the way. And they get to do everything under the sun. And then complain that the rich don't pay their fair share.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe because there's not enough for them to steal.
well, I find it interesting that they're always so the dichotomy where we have on one hand they're like rich people are so evil, such bad businesses, they're all bad, corporations are so evil, and then at the other hand, well, what is Newsom? I mean, how did he get all this money? Pelosi, AOC, she's worth $15 million now. And that's a really recent. She went from being a bartender to making $15 million. So she's a net worth of $15 million, has a Tesla. Meanwhile, she still wants you and me to pay off her student loans.
Did she keep the Tesla or did she give up the Tesla for the Hitler car? Didn't she say she traded it in for a Volkswagen?
I didn't see any news of her trading in. She might have. But
yeah, she was so proud of herself.
Yeah, but she got it in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. I mean, you're not getting that on good looks alone. She had to put up the money. And why is she worth $15 million? All she's done is she went from being a bartender directly into Congress, making $200,000 a year tax free. How does she turn $200,000 in 6 years into $15 million?
Yeah.
But the Democrats are perfectly fine with that disconnect, going, oh, they're super rich, but we hate the rich, but we love our electeds. There should be a question about this.
Right.
Newsom, I just did a video on it earlier today. It's his failure, or a tweet on it, that it's the failure of California, of Governor Newsom, in forest management, in terms of water management, is why we now see North Hollywood, the Palisades, are burning down.
Yeah.
Because of his absolute ineptitude. And he's making top dollar. He's part of the 1% of this nation that Democrats supposedly hate. And he's part of the 1% for being completely inept. It makes no sense. I don't get it.
No, it doesn't. They're all like that.
We were just talking 10 years ago, California voted on Proposition 1 to spend $7.6 billion on new water containment delivery, systems, to be able to fight wildfires and be able to have more potable water and everything else. And in the 10 years since that money has been allocated, not one water containment system has been built. Not one reservoir. Nothing. has been built.
Yeah.
He's useless. He is literally useless. The California government is useless because they're so busy virtue signaling. And the reason why they are not building it, people may not realize this. It's because of the environment, climate change. They don't want to disrupt the natural environment. So that's why they're not doing forest management. It's why they're not building up the water management that they have already had the money and spent the money on. It's because, but the environment. Well, guess what? Your environment's burning right now. What was the smarter thing to do? Do nothing and say, we're protecting the climate, or have a fire that's wiping out your cities. Go ahead.
Tap your mic.
Huh?
You started to break up like you're getting interference.
It's probably the connection on the mic. I literally just walked in the door from a prior meeting. So
Yeah, that's fine. You're still a little fuzzy.
Now here's the big question, Mike. Did you happen to walk through the congestion pricing area? Did they charge you for walking anywhere today?
You can walk through the congestion pricing,
For now.
but you can't take anything. I love it. They increased the MTA costs. This is a message for America. This is happening.
Yeah,
What you see, the kind of waste in California, that's sweeping across America because we have politicians. We keep re-electing them. It's over 90% of the elected people who are elected in Congress got re-elected. That's ridiculous. Over 90%. It was like 93%. And we wonder why things aren't getting fixed because we have inefficient people in. And here in New York, they increased the MTA, the subway fees, the buses, all cost more money. They have the congestion pricing, which is going to make things cost more money. They've trained everyone in New York City to get food from Uber Eats. Kids, younger people, they don't go shopping. They don't know how to shop anymore. They don't know how to cook anymore. Everything is ready to eat meals. We all see the commercials on YouTube and all social media.
Yeah, you got Factor, like meal groups like Factor and Whole Foods now has their own thing. Hello Fresh.
Exactly. All of those things. So they got to get delivered. Well, now they're all more expensive. So poor people are becoming more poor, both because it's more expensive to use mass transit and it's more expensive to get the food and get the meals, and they don't know how to shop. And that's all gone up. So poor people are actively being made more poor, and we're not more safe.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to lie to us. You're safe. How many people have been stabbed on the subway? How many people were shot? Burned alive is a thing now. That's becoming a common thing.
Thrown on the tracks.
Yep.
That's another one. Common.
Well, what do you expect is going to happen when you take a guy like Daniel Penny, who stopped a lunatic on the train, who happened to wind up dying because of the drugs in his system and a litany of other health issues, and then you try to convict this guy on first-degree friggin' murder, and you expect that people, normal, everyday, average people, are going to step up and put themselves in between the bad guy and the rest of society? They're going to say, screw that. I'm not going to go to jail today. That old lady can lay there in a pool of her own blood. I'm not saving her. I'm not going to step in against these thugs. I'm not
even when you don't
this.
do
I'm
anything.
not going to do that.
Like even when you don't do anything, and with the case of Dexter Taylor, you're just living your life, and the state decides that one day it can just come out of nowhere, knock on your door, bring the police in, and then take you out of your home and put you in Rikers.
That has become more popular and more consistent. That's true.
So it's like, how safe are we really? Not only do we have the criminals coming after us, but we also have the government coming after us. For what?
It's not even. Here's something that you guys probably didn't hear about, and it goes again. It seems like we're talking about the. Look at the key common thing: government inefficiency and ineffectiveness.
Right.
While they lie to the public, saying they're the best thing since sliced bread. This is consistent. We're seeing California, New York. You can say the entire Biden-Harris administration. and the entire time that they were in office, everything's been better than it's ever been before. As you see everything in your life falling apart, everything, all the infrastructure falling apart.
Yeah.
Did you see that? I believe it was yesterday. News came out. A teenage girl, 19, got the most recent. She got a jab. Boop, the mandated jab. She got her jab, and within 6 months, her breast started off at the size of a B cup, and then she had triple G because of the jab.
What?
Didn't come from me. This isn't news I'm just making up. This
Right.
literally comes from the and let me quote it correctly, because I know people will go, Mike, that's just not real, not real. If you go to the it's called the Pfizer boob job, and this is from the Journal of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Global Journal. Go there. This is a study from California, and they have found her. There seems to be another case of another woman who, instead of having both breasts, she just got a lump of excessive size. But this seems to be and when I put this out, I've gotten multiple. Now, this part is anecdotal. I've had multiple responses from women across the country and, in fact, overseas as well, as far as Australia, contact me and saying, no, the jab did affect their boob sizes. So this seems to be, and at least some portion of women getting the jab, this is having an impact on their breast sizes. Remember, you were told there's no impact. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing is going to change. You're okay. Get the jab. Get the jab. Again, government inefficiency, government ineffectiveness, government lying to your face about the consequences of what they did.
So that's weird. I'm gonna have to look that up, because mammary expansion, is it because they just the increased fat content of the mammary tissue, or did they say it was something like they expanded because of tumor growth, like protein growth?
Well, one woman had a tumor growth. The other one had it impacted the lymph nodes, which then stimulated growth of the mammary gland overall. And there's still more research. There is a research white paper out on this, so there is scientific evidence on this. They need to look at it more. There's not a lot of reported cases on it, but then again, women aren't necessarily running forward to say, hey, my breast just got increased. My breast size increased. Not a lot of women are going to talk about that. They'll talk about lumps, yes. But then most women who get lumps are going to say, well, it's breast cancer. So some of it may be misdiagnosed, that women who think it was just natural breast cancer, where it could have been from the jab.
They gained weight and they ended up gaining it in the chest, they thought.
Yeah. So it's unclear how many are being affected by this. It's likely that it is far more common than the evidence has shown so far, but it is a consequence that you were guaranteed and promised. There is no consequence. There is no problem. Right. Well, that's a lie. And how many times were we lied to over the last 4 years?
Every day.
Apparently,
the short answer is every day. We were lied to. And I think that's one of the reasons why. What last week when Marshall was on and we were talking about this channel and what we want to do going forward. One of the things that he was talking about, and I don't know if you saw it, Frank, when you went back to watch the episode from last week or not, but he was talking about we here on the channel want to try and promote a culture of liberty and help people understand what that means and what methods you can use to exemplify living free through your life. Without us being able to do that, without people like us carrying that message out there and helping people grasp the concept of liberty, crazy crap is going to be happening forever. if we don't get a handle on it now. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we've got is that we need to have our audience, especially, make a concerted effort to join us in trying to help everybody else understand what it means to live free, to live by liberty first principles, and how that plays out in our day to day, so that when the government lies to you, you have the tools at your disposal to turn around and be like, "You're lying to me. Now we're going to hold you accountable," because this is never going to stop. They're just talking about the H5N1 now, the bird flu business. That doesn't just affect birds. They're going to make sure that it impacts every aspect of our food supply, because there's the birds are related to our beef, are related to our pork. So all your meat groups are suddenly going to be tainted. They're going to consider them to be tainted. And then what are we going to do? We're already 30% shy in the massive world food supply, and they're going to shorten it even more. What do we have left to eat? Heavily processed foods, lab-grown foods. We're going to go give our money to Bill Gates? I don't think so. I mean, I'm going to hang on as long as I can, and I'm not going to be spending money on that kind of crud to put it into my body and poison myself. It's just ridiculous. Well, you can't do that if you're not free.
Well, oh, jeez. I think I just dislocated my shoulder.
It's all that MMA, Frank. You got to stop it.
No, we had a little mishap here at the house this past week, and I had to do an impromptu, unexpected major reconstruction effort here in the house, and was not aware that I was going to be doing it when I was going to be doing it. Kind of overdid it in the process.
Your bathroom didn't wind up in your living room, did it?
No, the laundry room did.
Yeah. Yeah, ours was the tub.
Yeah, it went from something don't seem right to holy shit. What the hell happened?
Hey, guys, as you can hear in the background, my puppy's losing his mind right now,
Yeah.
literally because I just walked in the door and he wasn't able to get walked. So I'm going to be 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. I'll be right
Sure.
back. Because I would love to talk with you guys about what you think about. I don't know about Panama, the canal, and the legality of that, which I would love to hear your opinion on. But I do have something to say about Greenland, because I did some research on it today. Because, first of all, Trump didn't say
Go
that he wanted to use
walk
military
the
force.
dog.
That was the news media who said that.
Go walk the dog.
Okay. So when we get back, I have a
When we
question
get back,
about Greenland.
we'll talk about Panama, Greenland, and,
Yeah.
and Taiwan.
I didn't give him the chance. I took him off the screen.
There
Now
you
he's
go.
gotta go walk the dog. Now I can add him back.
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm sitting there waiting for him to shut up so I can go take a leak, listen,
just be in the shoe.
really.
Uh,
And there's a reason. There's a reason I'm here down in the kitchen instead of upstairs in the office
right,
now. So I have easy access to the door, so I can let the dogs out if I need to.
right.
Yeah,
Plus-
his poor
plus
dog is sitting there
how's
with
your
four
leg?
legs crossed.
Yeah. How's your leg doing? I know you were having trouble getting up and down with your feet or your legs or whatever.
I'm still a quite the bit of a mess
Yeah.
as it is right now. It's I'm stuck in this catch-22 situation where I can't get better. I can't lose weight because I can't exercise.
Right.
I can't exercise because I have no flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I have no flexibility because I'm in a lot of pain,
Right.
constant pain. And because I'm in constant pain, I can't really do anything to remedy the rest of it.
Right.
So it's this vicious circle that just goes around and around and around. And it's like it starts getting to the point where everything is just getting incrementally worse, little by little by little, and it's taking its toll. I mean, I'm sitting there. I had to do work on the house this week, and that we have a part of the house is over a crawl space. There's down a lot of room, between the foundation and the first floor,
Right.
and it's inaccessible from below. So all the work I had to do was from above. So all the tear out had to come from the first floor, tear everything out, repair everything, replace everything. And, I'm standing what's essentially in the basement up to mid chest level, trying to do what I need to do.
Right.
I can't climb out. I can't pull myself out. And then I get to a point where I'm in a seated position. I can't stand up. And if I'm if I'm on my knee, I can't kneel down on my knees. I can't put any pressure on my knees because of my replaced knees.
Right.
And if I'm laying down and I try to stand up, well, I can't stand myself up because I don't have strength in my right leg because of the knee. I don't have strength in my left leg because of the ankle. So
Yeah.
I can't stand. So, Lori did more lifting this week than she's probably ever done in her life, as she's been helping me get up and down.
Right.
And I don't know how we managed to, thank God I had her here with me to help me do the majority of the work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it 10 years ago, I could have banged this job out in a day and a half. It would have been no problem for me. Now it takes a lot longer because I don't physically. And what's scary to me, though, I'm physically stronger than
Right.
probably just about anybody I know. I have an incredible amount of strength. I can pick anything up. I can lift anything, carry anything. Weight doesn't matter to me. I can bend things, break things, pick them up, throw them, don't matter.
Right.
But if I'm not mobile,
That
you
means
know,
nothing. Yeah.
it,
I
it,
get it.
it doesn't mean anything.
No, I get it because it's almost the same thing after my artery blew up, and now I'm on these medications and stuff. And I'll tell you what, I've never felt weaker, and it's
Yeah,
really really annoying. Like I want to get. I remember being like that. Didn't matter what you lifted. I could lift with my back. I could lift with my legs. I could, not bench press cars, but get close. And now I can't do hardly anything, and it just hurts all the time. So I get it. I sympathize.
yeah,
It doesn't help
it's like
either.
I got right around the same time as getting hurt, and with the I got diagnosed as diabetic. I
Mm,
was hypoglycemic most of my life, and then I went diabetic. And they're like, okay, you got to lose the weight, you got to do this, you got to do that.
right.
All right, fine, but if you can only starve yourself so much
Right.
before your body starts to cannibalize on itself to get what you're not feeding it.
Hmm.
If you're not exercising or you don't have the physical ability to exercise and bring in proteins, bring in starches, bring in carbohydrates and stuff like that, you're never going to lose the weight. I can never find a balance,
Right.
to get rid of the diabetes until I
Hmm.
lose the weight, but I can't lose the weight because I can't move. And it was funny. We were laughing a couple of weeks ago. Remember, I says I was at a yoga class.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wasn't for me. Somebody in my community was looking for help. They had to live stream a yoga class because they were going for certifications, and the people who certify them wanted to watch the live stream yoga class on YouTube.
Right.
Well, the guy didn't know how to do it, and I spoke to him and I said, "Hey, listen, I live stream every week." I says I can come to your facility. I'll bring my gear over there, bring my computer, and
Stream it. Yeah.
we'll get you hooked up. So I brought my cameras over there, brought my soundboard, I brought all my gear over there, and get them set up. Now, I'm just trying to help somebody in my community. Yeah, I'm not in it for me. I'm not charging them no money or anything else like that. It's not my thing.
Right.
And we're sitting there talking, and he says, "Well, Why don't you take a couple of the yoga classes? Because I guess he sees me moving around and not exactly the most fluid of,
Right.
of manner. And as well, we'll talk about it when we live stream the yoga class. When we get it all done and everything was finished and we're wrapping it up, and he's talking to me about the yoga class, and he's like, "Okay, well, tell me what's wrong and stuff like that." So I start going over the list, and I could see the look on his face. At
Right.
first, he was like all smiles because he thinks he's gonna happy. He thinks he's gonna help me, and like halfway through the conversation, he's like, "You're gonna need to see an orthopedic specialist. You're gonna need to see this. You're gonna need to see that." He goes, "Yoga's
Right.
not gonna help you." I'm like, "Yeah, I
I mean,
gathered that much."
some people can use things like yoga. There was a veteran that was told that he would never walk or run again, and he for years was languishing in a wheelchair. He had all his limbs, but he was just wounded in a way that basically destroyed his back. So he was resigned to a wheelchair until he started taking yoga, and then miraculously, whatever he did in yoga freed up whatever had happened to his spine. Now he walks and he runs, and he's like in his late 40s.
Well, that's
And
what this guy today, well, this yoga guy was dealing with. He's in his mid to late 50s, I think, and he said that he discovered yoga after a car accident
yeah,
about 7 8 years ago. That he was hurt pretty badly, and he got into the car accident, but he was already in decent shape before then.
mm,
He was in decent shape before then, so he already had a good foundation that he just needed to repair. You
right,
know, I don't have my foundation for what I got is basically a power lifter.
right,
Right? I'm built like a linebacker. Right? I'm not built for flexibility. I'm built to punch through walls. That's what I'm meant to do.
load you in a cannon and fire you through the wall, right?
Yeah, I'm you point me in that direction and that's what I go through. That's I'm not meant for. There was a time I was fast, a
Yeah,
100 pounds ago. Yeah, there was a time I was flexible, 120 pounds ago. But now it's my average walking around weight for 20 years was 240 pounds.
right,
And I felt good, I looked good, and everything else. Now I'm hovering at 290.
yeah,
It's a hell of a lot of weight to gather, and a lot of that's just in the last few years.
yeah,
And I look at I have video from a few years ago out in Texas where I was running behind Lanny Oakley, who's one of the world's greatest female shooters.
yeah,
She's I you say world's one of the world's top female shooters. She's one of the world's top shooters. She just happens to be
yeah,
female
female. Yeah,
because
I get it.
she's better than 99% of the men in the sport. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've actually seen her compete. It's really something to watch.
Yeah, she's fast. She's agile. She does it. She's running a course of 3 gun with a shotgun rifle pistol,
Right,
and it's about 150 yards that she's got to go through this terrain and everything, and she's on a track
right.
where it's carved out.
Yeah,
I ran behind her while she was running that track. I'm running off the track. I'm running over boulders. I'm running over logs. I'm in the wash. I'm avoiding cactuses because I don't want to get on the track where she's running. I have to avoid her and
right,
stay a certain distance away because number one, she's shooting live rounds. So I have to always stay in a position where I'm not in her line of fire. But
right,
I'm trying to keep up with her. And I got to the point where I kept up with her the whole way, running off in the rough while
right.
she's on the carved out track. And I said to myself, my God, I was a lot faster than I thought I was. And this was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
3 years ago. If I try to do that today, you might as well just shoot me there. And just drop me there.
right.
And I said, man, in just 3 years, how much has changed? And now I'm trying to get it back a little bit. I picked up a little part-time job where I'm walking a lot more, trying to stretch it. It's killing me. Is my ankle and my foot are in dire screaming pain every day. But I got to try and do something to get some movement.
Right.
You know, and I'm in the warehouse at the place today looking for a box, looking for a rifle box,
Yeah.
and I'm lean and the ceiling is like 22 feet high, and these big racks go all the way up. But the room I'm in is only like 15 feet wide, so
Right.
it's a narrow room that's really tall. And I'm trying to look at the boxes up at the top shelf, and I'm standing there and I'm leaning, and I can't even replicate it. I'm leaning up against the thing, and I got my body like tilted back. And one of the guys, he says, he says, you remind me of Michael Keaton in a Batman outfit. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you can't move your head. He says, you got to turn your whole body to see where you're going.
Yep.
I says, dude, you get this much arthritis built up in your neck after a while. You start losing, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of flexibility. And I realize I can't look up beyond a certain point.
Right.
You know, so I'm like, I have to. I feel like a freaking robot.
I am going this way now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah,
sucks.
but
Getting,
I
I,
I'll laugh because I'll sit there, I'll grab 3 bundles of shingles out of the back of a pickup truck, throw them on my shoulder, or go up a ladder, throw them on a roof, do this and that. I could, whole sheetrock, plywood, do this, that, and everything else. I make myself a cup of coffee, I throw my back out.
yeah.
That's what the last 3 years have done. The 2.5 years are like.
That reminds me of a story of my granddad. My granddad told me once that he threw his back out picking up a penny next to a toaster on a counter, and it was right after he had just finished buzzing a load of wood. You know, he's out there with the
Yes.
tractor and he's running the buzz saw. I don't know. We were out there for like 6 hours or whatever, and then we go in for his cup of coffee because he like to have a break, right? He'd take a coffee break, and he goes to bend down to pick up a penny that was next to the toaster to put it in a change jar, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I just threw my back out." And so we just finished buzzing wood. I was
Yeah,
like,
you get to the point where the level gets so far and stops, and
yeah,
that's where you've got to give it time to start backing off. But if it's stuck there and you take that one little step more, boing, that's it. It
yeah,
goes
just
off.
just goes.
Well, you've heard Mel Brooks describe the difference between comedy and tragedy,
Yes,
right?
yep,
Yeah, tragedy is you sitting there doing your bills on a Saturday morning, and you're going through your papers and your checkbook and this and that and everything else, and you get one of them little paper cuts right in between the web of your finger. It's like the
yeah,
worst spot you can get a paper cut, and your hands are sweaty and it's stinging, and you know it's, oh God, this is like the worst thing that you got to deal with. You can't put a Band-Aid on it; it's gonna sting, and it's gonna take like a week to heal before you. And every time you open your hand, this is a friggin' tragedy. You know,
right,
guy walking down the street falls into an open manhole cover and dies. That's comedy.
yeah.
That's how Mel Brooks described the difference.
Yeah, no, he's a genius too. I'm gonna be sad when he finally goes because there's a lot of our favorite artists and entertainers that were really good that are not gonna be with us much longer.
Ah,
Unfortunately.
well, he came out endorsing Sleepy Joe last time around. So I'm like, all right, well, you just cashed in any credits you had with me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
that's
hate to s-
like most of
I hate to
Hollywood.
say it that I hate to say it like that way, that you could take somebody's entire body of work and sum it all together, and they do or say one thing, and it's like, okay, well, you got to cast them aside. But there was a time when the comedians of the 60s and the 70s,
Yeah.
they stood for something. They stood for freedom of expression. They
Yeah.
stood for freedom of speech. They stood for equality. They stood for a lot of things. They never would have resorted to being on the censorship plantation.
Right.
You know, where people can't say what they want and do what they want and everything else like that. These were people that were free speech absolutionists, you know,
Yeah.
and they and then for them all to come out and, you know, jump on this bandwagon where when you look at some of the byproducts of it, I'm like, listen, don't you see how this, you know, spits in the face of everything that you did?
Yeah.
You can't, if you try to make History of the World Part 1 today, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. If you
Blazing
tried to make
Saddles. Yeah.
Blazing Saddles, you couldn't do it. Young Frankenstein, you couldn't do it.
The
There were so
producers
many.
even.
Well, they did the producers over about, I think, like 15 years ago. Like
Yeah.
10 or 15 years ago. They did it with Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick, Uma Thurman. They did it with them. What's the Will Ferrell was in it, and it was an all-star cast, and they stayed pretty true to the original script. They
Right.
stayed pretty true to it because people understood at that time it wasn't a movie about praising the Nazis. It was a movie about ridiculing them.
Right.
All right, there was a track record there. Even the people that saw the producers the original time, you had to take yourself out of the audience and put yourself into the movie if you were going to think it was about praising the Nazis. It was
Right.
the people in the movie that thought Springtime for Hitler was a serious thing. It was just a comedy of errors that had a very flamboyant, over the top actor make Hitler into a burlesque act.
Right.
You know, that's what made it funny.
Funny.
That's what
Yeah.
made the people. That was the punchline of the movie. That's how the movie turned. But it was never. It was never an objectionable movie. If you
Right.
looked at it, it was never meant to be objectionable. It was meant to be satirical.
Hmm.
Where Blazing Saddles was meant to piss people off. It was
Yeah.
meant to poke strings at you. The like, I look at what's the Star Wars ripoff that he did,
Oh, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
Yeah.
I put Spaceballs and the producers in the same category.
Yeah.
Okay,
With
they're
the
in the
satire.
same category because they were there was something. It was an established joke that he just put a spin on it. You know, that he brought the whole thing to life. Whereas a lot of the other ones were, this is an untouchable subject. How do we make
Right.
it funny?
Yep.
All right. And the same thing goes for Monty Python.
Yeah.
Monty Python took Mel Brooks's ideas and pushed them beyond that limit.
Yep.
You know, I look at Mel Brooks and I say, okay, Mel Brooks is George Carlin, Monty Python is Lenny Bruce.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Carlin could do clean,
Yes.
you know, and Carlin could do thought provoking.
Yep.
Lenny Bruce was just, I'm in your face the whole time, and I'm going to make it as bad as I possibly could. Where Richard Pryor went, damn, you know,
Yeah.
you know, so that's, but to see everybody from you know, from John Cleese, Eric Idle, all of these guys basically coming out and saying in one hand, oh, you can't make the kind of movies that we used to make, and then turn around and then support the censorship that's preventing them from making the movies they wanted to make.
Right.
It,
And
it,
somehow,
it like in,
somehow they
yeah,
justify it. They some like I actually went back and forth with John Cleese briefly on Twitter, and it was. I mean, it was a good exchange, but it was still one of these things where I was like, you know, at one point in time, you wanted to be able to make a movie that touched subjects that were normally forbidden, like verboten. You couldn't say it. but you wanted to be able to say it because it needed to be discussed. And yet here you are now, a prolific funny man that took serious topics and made them hilarious so that we could talk about them. And now you want to just shut down the discussion. How do you reconcile that? Oh, it was a different time then.
Well,
That's how they try to justify it. It was a different time then, and somehow that's not appropriate now.
well, you want to know what's funny? If you look at, and I'm going to bring this into race. I'm going to bring this into race, which is something I never ever really touch on this thing. But I see guys like Don Lemon,
Yeah.
right? I see guys uh, like Steve Harvey.
Mhm.
I see guys who have become extremely wealthy,
Yeah.
extremely popular, extremely powerful. I see people like Oprah. I see
Mhm.
people like Whoopi, and I see all the rest of, and they all have reached this tremendous pinnacle in their career. You know, where they've got money, power, prestige, they've got credibility, they've got reputation, they get everything, and then they'll turn around and tell everybody who's in that same color, you can't do it.
Right. They pull up the
You
ladder
can't do it.
behind.
And because they go and they support policies that prevent other people from becoming successful. They reach the brass ring, and you just said it. They pull the ladder up behind them. Where in the 50s and 60s, people that made their mark, they brought other people up with them, and then and where does the phrase "we are where we are because we stood on the shoulders of giants"?
Right.
You know, you lifted people up and you put them further than where you could go. You got them beyond where you could go. You broke ceilings with them and you pushed them and you kept them going and you burned the fires for them. Now, you're not allowed to do that. All these successful comedians
Hmm.
that made their success doing what they did, nope, you can't do it now. I did it, but you can't. You're not allowed to. I broke through the racism barrier, but that was me. I did, but I'm going to support these policies that prevent you from doing it. So you can go blame somebody else. You can go blame somebody.
Yeah, and that's the
You know,
irony is that they do that. They do that, and yet out of the other side of their mouth, they're screaming about equity. And it's like you're doing is you're getting into a group that's going to pick winners and losers. That's not freedom.
yeah,
That's
and then you get,
that's
and you
elitism.
get so, and you get to the point now where you see what happens as soon as you start getting people, especially in comedy. You start getting people in comedy who'll start making a little bit of a name for themselves or something like that, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden they'll try to get a little edgy.
Yeah.
You know, they'll try and tap on that glass ceiling that somebody else, allegedly broke, but they didn't tell you they put it back in place after they, went through it. They'll
Right.
try and get a little edgy, and before you know it, all the ones above, they cancel you.
Yeah.
Nope, oh, this one's getting a little too close for comfort. We better put them back in their place.
Yeah.
You know, and you want to know what's funny is I think the only one that I think is Dave Chappelle. He'll
Yeah.
still keep breaking through breaking every one of the rules,
Hmm.
and he'll help other people out. But he calls them out on it. As far as these people, the cancel culture, but it's all
Right.
the people who've made the millions of dollars are the ones that turn the cancel culture on the ones that are up and coming. And then
Yeah.
the ones that are up and coming are told you have to blame society for it because society didn't accept you.
Yep. Yeah, it's a sad state, and it's one of the things that indicates that our culture is stagnating, and it stagnates because there's a lack of freedom, and the only way you can get to the point where our culture embraces living free again is to understand what that means. You got to define it. What is liberty? What is freedom? What does it mean to have free exercise of your unalienable rights? What does that look like? And once you know it, and once you know how to practice it, then you can arm yourself up and know how to defend it. And that's, I
Yeah,
think, what
well,
our main objective needs to be as a society here in the United States. We're still the greatest experiment in the world when it comes to the individual and self governance. But the problem is we've lost the plot. and we need to get that back. And the only way we're going to be able to do it is if voices like ours, voices like those of our audience, voices that interact with our audience and other people with ideas of freedom are able to openly discuss them. And even on places that are more free than others, like on internet platforms such as X, Twitter, it's there's weird shit going on there. Like there's Elon talking about boosting positive interaction at the expense of negative interaction, and it's like, well, how do you determine what's so negative that it shouldn't be allowed to be discussed? What's the metric? Who determines what the metric is? Well, if it's going to be you because it's a private company, that's fine, but at the same time, you can't say that you're a free speech absolutist and then turn around and limit free speech. It doesn't work like that. Like that just, it's a contradiction that cannot stand. So you either are going to allow people to argue, and yeah, it might get out of hand, it might get passionate, and it might get ugly. But at the end of the day, if people are still discussing, you need to let it ride if you're a free speech absolutist.
That's why I believe the whole promoting things needs to stop.
Yeah.
Good ideas don't need to be promoted. They promote themselves.
Right.
Good products don't need to advertise. They sell themselves. Good ideas, when they're shared, will propagate. People will share them with others.
Right.
When you start saying, oh, we're going to promote this person's speech or that person's speech, what you're doing is you're basically turning everything and using the same exact algorithm that you had, except replacing the words.
Right.
You turning it into a fucking popularity contest. And then people who do have good ideas.
Is that a tanker's hat?
Yeah, he looks like he just came back Jacques Cousteau style. People who do have good ideas but don't have a lot of following never get heard.
Right.
If you stop promoting people and stuff like that, and you just let the value of the word speak for itself, people will find it, people will share it. If you're allowing people, I think what they should do is come out with 1 month where they eliminate everybody's name, everybody's face, everybody's followership.
Yeah.
And let everybody post anonymously. And let the best ideas rise to the top. Let the best conversations rise to the top. Let the ideas that mean the most and that can change the most be the ones that garner favor with everybody else. Because
Right.
if you don't know where the ideas are coming from and you don't know where the words are coming from, you might actually start to see that somebody that you thought you disagreed with, you might agree with.
Right.
You turn off the spectrum that you have, and that I don't give a shit what that guy says because I hate him.
Right.
You turn that off. You turn it off, and if you just listen to it, we're supposed to be, a battleground of ideas.
Yeah.
Let the words speak. I mean, to this day, there's still controversy over the actual authors of our founding documents.
Yeah.
All right. Was it Madison? Was it Jefferson? Was it this one? Was it that one? Was it a contribution of all of them? Who wrote what sections? We don't know. Now, I always had this thing when we were at work, and I had guys working with me. Guys working for me, and a lot of times I hired subcontractors and I would come in. Now, these guys were used to how I worked.
Right.
They knew what I expected of me. My philosophy at work was to always tell them, when the customer gets to the job, if I started on that side of the building and you started on that side of the building and we met somewhere in the middle, the customer should not be able to tell who did what work.
Yeah.
All right, everything should be the same. It should be homogenous. It should have a unity to it. It should all be of equal value. It should be of equal quality. And our founding documents are like that. So there is some, well, that sounds Madisonian. Well, that sounds Jeffersonian. Well, they really don't know. They have they have, oh, well, this one got credit and that one got credit. But we still don't know for sure because
But
they
it,
never
but it
took the
doesn't matter.
credit.
Right. But I see what you
It,
mean. It doesn't matter
right.
because it's
It
the
didn't matter
ideas.
because it was all a perfectly written, beautiful document.
Right.
And it shouldn't have mattered where it came from. And that's why they say you have to take the founding fathers and take away their private lives.
Yeah.
Take away who they were as human beings. Take away their history, their names, their ages, their spouses, where they lived, and everything else. And base what you know about them on the foundation of their ideas. And say,
Yep.
look at the value in the ideas and the propositions in these documents. Okay, forget about who owned this or who owned that, who owned who and who owned what. Forget that and look at the documents for what they are. When you can do that in a society where you forget where the ideas are coming from and we just work on the ideas themselves, we might find some common ground and be able to make things work. Rather than worrying about is it a D, is it an R, is it this or is it that?
Yep.
That's why I say if we had a week where Twitter went anonymous and nobody knew who was doing what and was allowed to put their name up.
Yeah, you get the
might,
better ideas. And I see
you
where you're
might
going.
see it.
But yeah, but you'd also have to work with the expectation that there would be bad ideas that would go to the bottom, and there would be people that would be bottom feeders. That
And
has to be expected. I mean but that's okay. That's okay because we were looking for the ideas. We're not looking at the
right.
people.
And that's
So if
the
there's
thing.
bad ideas, you just sit there and you bomb them from
But
orbit with better ideas.
but that's the thing. How many friggin' people are out there that are bottom feeders because that's their stock and trade? They've become popular because of that stock and trade.
Right.
They become popular because they are bottom feeders. Right? Their ideas are so shitty that that's where they make their popularity from. But now, if you extrapolate the idea, take the name off of it, and just throw the idea against the wall, where people don't know where it came from, and you
would die.
remove the messenger from the message, and you
Right.
look at the message by itself, and people say, well, that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard of.
Right. They make fun of it. They would make fun of it and then forget it.
Right.
It would just go away. No, that's what it should be.
All right. Thank you guys for putting up with emergency. Obviously, my puppy.
You're fine.
And
I'm sorry, I had to shut you off over there because I kept hearing the dog. I kept picturing him all four legs crossed, having a pee, and you're over there yammering at the microphone.
okay, the reality is, see, he makes the noise, and then we go out, and whether it's a short walk or a regular walk, in the last 2 minutes, that's when he actually goes to the bathroom. Doesn't matter. So the entire time we were out, we're walking around. He didn't do any. He had no business to do until literally the last 2 minutes, and then he went, and he does it every time.
What's your temperatures like up there right now?
They say it's 21, but it feels like 0, a little bit below, just because of wind chill.
It's about 15 up here. With wind chill, it's probably closer to 10.
Yeah, no snow.
No.
Which, considering it's January, it's actually good weather. People are like, "Oh my God, it's so free." It's usually like 1 degree with a wind chill of like -9.
Yeah.
So we're actually warmer than usual.
I got 31 here in Charlotte.
Well, that's a little bit low for you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It is this week and next is supposed to be cold now. The weather is talking about how we're expecting an unprecedented amount of snow on Friday, upwards of 2 inches.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, God, so much snow, 2 inches.
Well, it's funny. Where I'm working, they actually have an emergency phone number
For 2 inches of snow.
If the weather gets to a certain point, you have to call up, and they'll tell you if the facility that you're at is going to be open. Because At 1 inch of snow, they shut down the city of Charlotte.
Really?
I
They
have
don't-
walked to high school and junior high school through 2.5 feet of snow.
I know, uphill both ways with the wind that you face. I know, while carrying 2 coal miners on your back.
I'm not quite that.
barefoot.
Not quite
Yeah,
that.
I've done it too. I did it too.
Yeah.
For all 18 years of junior school.
Yeah.
But they have no snowplows here.
That's true.
They have no sanding devices. They have no salting devices.
It's
They have
2 inches of snow. Who needs it? It's 2 inches.
vast.
It's not enough. That's seriously. That's like
Listen. I know. Believe me, a guy with an F-150 and a Myers plow could clean up like crazy on a 1/2 inch of snow down here because the people do not know how to drive.
I tell you
They
what. There's a funny joke about 2 inches in white boys, but I'm not going to go there.
But hey, listen, you guys know what it's like living upstate. As soon as the first snowflake hits in November, some idiot on 88 is off the road.
Yeah.
As soon as but you know you live in 9 months of snow every friggin' year, but yet you forget how to drive in it. The people down here don't see snow once but every 3 years, so they have no knowledge whatsoever. I'm at work today and I'm talking to people who are from New York, and we can identify each other easily where I'm at because we're the only ones that sound like this. And they were like, "Hey, what are you gonna do Friday when it snows?" Like, we're gonna find a parking lot and go do donuts. They're all looking forward to doing donuts on Friday. That's what they're all looking forward to.
I just
all the
always
New
laugh.
Yorkers.
I always laugh when I hear about the South talking about snow and how they freak out. It's just funny. But what we were talking about before we left, I don't know if you guys talked about it at all. About since we're talking about cold weather, well, that makes me think of Canada. That makes me think of Greenland. It makes me think of what they're saying about Trump and Greenland and Canada. Are you guys up to date on that?
Some
Some of it, yeah.
A little bit of
Last I
something,
knew, he
yeah.
was talking about seriously asking the people of Greenland if they wanted to join the United States.
Kind of,
and
not
all
quite.
and all 7 of them said yeah.
Not quite. That was Trump Jr. This weekend took a trip to Greenland. And he videotaped him or had taped him talking to a bunch of people in a bar who were Trump supporters and talking about what if America bought Greenland? Would you sell? Yeah, but I thought this was completely a joke and it was just hyperbole. It's not. There's something real behind it. But again, it's behind it. The mainstream news media is absolutely misreporting this on purpose. They're making this sound like it's World War III. Fear. Aren't you afraid? We told you Trump was going to bring war. It's the end of the world because of Trump. You Republicans, you did this to us. That's what they're trying to make it sound like. It's not. First of all, what Trump is saying, he didn't say he's going to use military force to take over Greenland. That was the news media. Reporters asked him if he would use force to take over Greenland. And Trump said, everything's on the table. He's not putting anything out. He's not saying yes or no. So the news media, in hearing, since someone in the media asked him the question, obviously then that's Trump's statement.
Oh, he's
And they just ran
deflecting.
it.
He's deflecting, and he's going to use military force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're freaking out with the fear mongering. Now, put that on the side for a moment. Why is any of this conversation happening? Why is Trump going crazy about Greenland? Actually, Trump's been talking about this back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
What the media likes to leave out is he had this conversation, and NPR has an article about it back in October of 2019 when Trump was doing the same conversation he's having right now. But they didn't care then. No one cared because they were saying, Trump's going to cause World War III with China or North Korea or Iran or everyone in the world. We were going to die imminently, and they had everyone else to pick on.
Right.
This time around, they've got nothing. So they're going with Greenland before Trump even gets in to make you think he's a demon. The reality is what he said in 2019, what he's saying right now, Does the United States want access to the mineral rights in Greenland?
Yes.
And if that means we buy the land, which may mean the country as well, that could mean buy the country, it could mean buy the mineral rights, then that's what he's willing to do. Why? And I had this conversation earlier today. Do you guys know what Greenland has? Why it's
No.
important at all?
I don't know what the mineral rights and other resources that Greenland has that we would want. I do know that their water rights are valuable, but even more than that, the idea of America having access to Greenland is not just new with Trump. It actually was a military plan
Mm-hmm.
when the Soviets and the communist
Cold War.
Chinese were more in the Cold War era. They were talking about having bases in Greenland to prevent Soviet Russia and China from accessing the North American continent by going over the Arctic and coming down through Greenland.
And that is actually part of the conversation that Trump had in 2019. It's part of the conversations he's having now. It is in part having access because Greenland, China, has been trying to take over an old naval base from World War II in Greenland, and they want to use that and an airport, which is a threat to the national security of the United States.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why Trump is making his push in Greenland, to keep China out. But the big thing, the really big motivator is that, and almost no, I didn't even know that until I was doing the research. Greenland has 25% of the world's rare earth metals.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Rare earth, for people who don't know, rare earth metals, that's your cell phones, that's your electric vehicles, that's your wind turbines, the big windmills.
Solar panels.
So it's
all
green
that.
energy, and it's also our military jets.
Yeah.
So it's national security. If you believe in climate change, if you believe in renewable energy, that's there. If you like cell phones, if you like technology, it's there. And China has 12% of all the rare earth minerals in the world. The United States, I believe, has about 6 or 8%, and Greenland has 25. The only place that has more is Africa, and that's 50 countries. But all the deals with Africa for the rare earth minerals, Obama screwed the pooch.
Yeah.
Obama screwed that up, and China took all the deals.
Right.
So
China has Africa. Yeah.
Yep, China has Africa, so we lose that. China has 12% on their own. We lose that. The only way we can be energy independent and have technology and have military support going into the future and have green energy, we need the minerals in Greenland. And that's why Trump wants to be in Greenland. He wants those minerals. Media is downplaying that massively. They're ignoring this. Same thing he said in 2019. Totally downplaying this to make Trump look like a dictator. That's not what this is about. Now, Trump apparently is playing into the dictator role because it makes the deal easier. Because I'm the bad guy. You know what? I could take over your country with military. You got 56,000 people. I could run in there tomorrow and take it over, but I won't. Instead, I'll make a deal and just get the mineral rights instead. It makes it easy to have leverage. The media is actually helping him make his deal.
Yeah.
And that's what Greenland's about. That's what it really is about.
I mean, actually, even right now, so Greenland is a territory of Holland, of the Netherlands, right? So in international law, they actually could make a play for Greenland, and if Greenland was you know, what's the word? If Greenland wanted to, they could basically appeal to the United States to become a United States territory, and because the people of Greenland are semi-autonomous, the Netherlands doesn't rule Greenland. It doesn't govern Greenland. They're semi-autonomous in the sense that they're still part of the decision making in when Netherlands makes policy, but they're basically on their own when it comes to like local politics and international politics. So the people of Greenland could, in essence, apply to the United States for territoryship, and they could eventually become another state if they wanted to, and there would be nothing that the Netherlands could ever say no to, because they really don't have any standing as far as international court is concerned.
Well, technically, Greenland is essentially a commonwealth. It is part of, not the Netherlands, the Danish, the Dutch. They have control of it. They own it.
Yeah, it's the Netherlands.
Yeah. And so they have, technically, they own it. It's their land. But the Greenlanders want to be independent of anyone. They've been actually, there's a big independence movement in Greenland, but they can't survive on their own. Right. Everyone in Greenland knows. I mean, there's nothing there. It's Greenland. It's a big, plain of ice for the most part, ice and rocks. They need the support of a major nation. So, yeah, they're going to have some of that conversation. But it's funny how the media has portrayed this all as if it's just Trump is a dictator. He's evil. We told you he's evil. See the evil that's happening right now, when that's not the conversation. That's not the story. No. And it's the same story from 2019 that they threw under a bus. They threw it away. It was a throwaway story in 2019. No one cared.
Right.
And the only reason why it's a story today is now they've amped it up and they've hyped it, and they're trying to use it as a negative. And they're counting on the fact that the general public has no idea what happened in 2019, that they're not paying attention to what actually was said by Trump and what was said by the media. Yeah. And they're trying to, they're hoping that the media public will just go, yeah, Trump is a dictator. Trump's a dictator. He's evil. And so the Democrats can have power in 2026. That's what this is really about. This is about the midterm elections.
Yeah, no, there's trying to set up the optics to try and take back some power, some modicum of power in 26. But I don't know. I actually think that Greenland should have been a protectorate of the United States a long time ago, based on the arguments, the military arguments from the Cold War.
We could have, I mean, there was a time, and if in the 40s, 50s, we probably could have made that case a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's just so interesting. Now, another reason why, for everyone who's watching, and this is constitutional, everyone who hears, oh, Trump's going to start a war, he's going to invade Greenland. That takes an act of war. He would have to literally declare war against a NATO country. Greenland is a NATO member. We would have to actively declare war against a NATO member, which means Congress has to authorize war. Trump can't do this just because he wants. Even if Trump wanted to put in troops and just invade and take over Greenland, let's assume that this wet dream of the news media and Democrats is true, and he's like, yeah, we're going to go invade. He can't. Not without Congress. And Republicans and Democrats aren't going to vote for a war. They're never going to, especially not a war against Greenland. We're never going to see them authorize that. No. So constitutionally, this is a lie. And then again, they're counting on people not knowing the law and know, oh, it takes an act of Congress to invade Greenland or Panama or Canada. It's never going to happen. This is so much hype. And no one's anything.
If anything, you're right about the media making Trump's case for him, because if they can convince people that he really could do this, which he can't, we know he can't, but if he could, the rest of the world's going to see it, and they're going to want to go to the negotiating table rather than fight a war.
Yeah. And by the way, Jan brings up a great point. Trump has said it's mostly about national security. Energy is national security. Technology is national security, as well as maintaining the bases and being able to have control over the Arctic or be aware of what's going on with the Arctic between Russia and China. That's national security. It is national security. It's also energy. It's also technology. They're all interrelated. They're all answered by the same thing. So again, when my focus is on what he said in 2019, what the original argument, what the original discussion was about, not the hype. I just want people to know they're hyping this. The media is fear mongering. This is active, progressive propaganda, fear mongering before our eyes. And Trump's not in power. He at this moment he can say anything he wants. He's not the president.
Yep.
Yes, he was certified. He's not president. Biden still is. So again, he still has no power, even if he wanted tomorrow to go into Greenland. He can't.
I like Forrest Mommy pointed out the joke that the Greenland's full of ice and Iceland's full of green.
Yeah. The Vikings were smart.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we're going to send all of our waywards out to Greenland because making them think that it's a lush green place. And then they get there and they're like, oh, we were bamboozled.
Yeah. Hey guys, listen, while you guys want to sit here and talk for a little while, I'm going to head out a little early because where you had one dog that needed to go out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You now have 3.
I have 3 that are now patiently waiting for me to take them outside. So before I go tonight, I'm just gonna say one thing. Hey, Fidel Jr. up there in Canada. See you, douchebag. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Night, Frank. So that last comment Frank was making was about Trudeau. And I won't keep you on too long, Adele. Justin Trudeau, obviously, he's gone. And that's directly because of Trump, which I find interesting that the Canadians, Trudeau put them in jail, took away their money. There's still several Canadians who have never gotten their money back from their protests that they had in Canada. They've never got, even though the Canadian Supreme Court determined that Trudeau broke their law, he literally violated all their laws and punishing and just politically targeting Canadian citizens, and they kept him in, even as prime minister, even though Supreme Court in Canada said, yep, he absolutely broke the law. It was a crime, and they kept him.
Yep.
He's taken away their right to defend themselves. He's taxed them up the wazoo. He's trying to make buddies with China and make Canada more socialist. He was out partying when everyone else was locked down and having to get the mandated jabs. He's punished the Canadian people for not using the correct pronouns.
Yeah.
Literally throws them in jail for that. All of this happens. The Canadians, nope, we're going to keep them. We're going to keep them. Trump shows up and says, you know what? If you keep letting illegal aliens come into America, I'm going to put on a tariff. Now he's crossed the line. Now Trudeau has gone too far. It's too much. We cannot have Trump pissed off about illegal aliens. That's it. We got to get rid of you because, again, Trudeau also believes in open borders, which has been screwing up Canada as much as it has everywhere else in the world.
Right.
I think that's funny that that's the final line. It's like we can't survive a Trump tariff.
No, it's because those tariffs would bankrupt their government. So the government doesn't want to lose access to their money. So they're going to say, no, that's a line too far. The government's now threatened, so we can't have this anymore. Trudeau has to go. But it doesn't matter what happens to the Canadian people. The Canadian people could be collared and chained together, and they would still maintain the same government because they have the power and they have the money and they have the access to the means. That's the irony, is that they're not listening to their people. Otherwise, Trudeau would have been gone after he took away the bank accounts of the protesters.
I thought he was definitely going to get kicked out then. I thought for sure that was his final call. But no, I don't know who.
No, he hung on because the government kept him in place. The government kept him in place. and the people there are, they're doing the best that they can, but they don't have the fire in them to actually just walk up to the building and park themselves in front of the building and say no more.
Well, they did the first time. Then everyone lost their jobs, got their bank accounts wiped out, and lost their money and have never gotten it back, even though it was a crime.
Right.
Verified, absolute, confirmed. It's a crime. It's not a theory. It's not my opinion. That is a fact of law in Canada.
Right. But it's too painful. Like, they went through it. They didn't get anything resolved. What do they do now? They don't want to, short of a violent revolution. What do you have left when they take away your means of combating the government in less violent ways? Right? I mean, that's the thing, is that's why free speech is so important for us. You take away free speech, what are you left with? Not a lot. Your options become very slim. And we don't want to go and have to, we as a people, especially in the West, value life enough that we don't want to just frivolously throw it away on something we're not going to be able to make a difference in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see Trudeau is gone. You're right, though. It is ironic that he left now, when, to save America's hat, so to speak.
I know Jen is asking, and I know a few people are wondering, because we mentioned something about Canada, which is in the news. We've talked about Greenland, which is now in the news. But the last one that's been making the rounds in the last week has been Trump is going to take over, or wants to take over. Well, actually, two things: Gulf of America and Panama Canal. So let me address Panama Canal. I don't know if you guys did already.
No, we haven't. When you went to go walk con, we actually talked about getting old.
Okay. Well, that I can relate to. I can see, you can see it. I can relate.
Yeah.
But in terms of Panama Canal, I think Carter made a horrendous deal to give up the Panama Canal. I thought it was stupid then. I think it's stupid now. It's too vital an asset in the hands of a far too unstable government in a far too unstable region of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's critical to international trade and for the U.S. as well. And it is a national interest of the United States to be able to have the Panama Canal, both in terms of getting our military from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It's trade. It's a big deal. So Carter made a mistake massively. And he was way ahead of the virtue signal bus when he did that, because that's why he did it. Oh, America, we're so bad. We'll give back to Panama Canal. We built it. We paid for it. And I know Trump said that. We did. We built it. We paid for it. It's ours. We shouldn't have given it away. I don't think Trump's going to go down there with force. Again, I think this is, and what we've seen consistently from Trump is he will use the hype and the negative media to put fear into his enemies, make them wonder he could do almost anything. He's crazy.
Right.
And they negotiate, and he gets a better hand in the negotiations. These are negotiation tactics, I think. Let them fear him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and it makes more sense that way. I mean, really what we want to do is we want to encourage free national trade. You don't get that by being an authoritarian. You get it by negotiating a really good deal. And I think that's where he's going with it, is that he wants America to administer the Panama Canal so that we can keep trade free. That, I think, is where he's coming from with it.
Get a better deal in terms of getting our ships across, a little bit more priority in that, more stability in the region, which guarantees the stability of the canal because it's so strategically important.
Right.
Yeah. And he gets a better deal because everyone's terrified. No one's sure what he's going to do. Would he do it? Again, now, Panama Canal doesn't take an act of Congress, unlike taking over Canada or taking over Greenland. You don't need an act of war to take over the Panama Canal, because it's the canal, not the country. We're not declaring war on the country, and we could do that. But again, Trump has been a president who has been about reducing the risk of America in wars around the world. He's reduced the amount of terror in the world. He's increased the amount of stability. He has kept America out of wars throughout his term. There's no reason to believe he's changed that aspect of his mindset.
Right.
I think. So again, if we're looking at what we know and what we have seen consistently, and the American people do not support having a war over the Panama Canal
No.
or Canada or Greenland. And Trump is a populist.
Yes.
So I don't see, again, it goes to the fear mongering. This is coming from the left saying, oh my God, Trump's going to, just like they said in 2017, Trump's going to have World War III. We're going into war with North Korea because he called Kim Jong-un Rocket Man.
Yeah.
And Rocket Man loved the nickname.
Oh, yeah.
Rocket Man had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same. It's that hype. It's the left trying to terrify their voters. Basically, they're terrifying Blue Sky to make Blue Sky lose their mind so that Blue Sky will do nothing but watch CNN and MSNBC, whichever new name MSNBC gets, and to keep watching them all day and all night and vote nothing but they got to keep Gavin Newsom in. They've got to keep in the 93% of Congress has to stay exactly the same.
Right.
Because they want the exact same results that they got under the Biden administration, which means there was an 18% increase in homelessness in 2024 under Biden. They blame that on Trump. I don't know how, but 18%. That's how good Bidenomics was. Homelessness went up 18%.
Right.
This is ridiculous. And they're blaming it on, oh, it's Trump. It's because of Trump. No, Trump wasn't in charge. That's Biden. That's Bidenomics.
Yep.
It failed. So I think that kind of covers what I'm thinking about in Panama.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. So the last one is Gulf of America. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how I would feel about that. I mean, we definitely have a greater naval presence in the Gulf than I wouldn't even call it the Gulf of America. I'd just call it the Gulf. I wouldn't even say where it's from. It's just the Gulf.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we definitely have more of a naval presence. We rely on the Gulf of Mexico a lot more than the Mexicans do. You don't really hear about Mexico utilizing the shipping from the Gulf.
Oil.
So
They do drill for oil in
Yeah.
the Gulf. So that's their big thing there. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter.
right.
What's the name of what we call the landmass called Japan? What's the name of Japan?
Nippon, Japan.
That's right. It's Nippon. It's not Japan. It's Nippon. That's the real name. The
Right.
people there are not Japanese. They're Nipponese. We call it the wrong thing. There's
Yeah.
several nations around the world and several areas around the world. They have the wrong name because just political convention. It's just easy to misname it. We've always called it the wrong thing. So we'll keep calling it the wrong thing.
It's
just
like
habit.
Taiwan.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
But-
you're Chinese. That's what they say.
Yeah, that's Taiwan.
Yeah. Or where is it with the Buddhists?
Tibet.
Tibet. Yeah. There's another one. But here's the thing. So one, the name is kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
And by the way, it can be changed. We can change the maps tomorrow and call it the Gulf of America. Changes nothing. Legally changes nothing. It's
Right.
not a factor. Even the world, or I think it's the U.S. cartographic departments the map makers, they're like, yeah, you can change it anytime you want. Doesn't matter. Generally, there's no rule that says you can't rename something. You can. It's just we generally tend to historically leave it the same until something big happens. Like
Right.
a coup attempt or government
Well,
goes and becomes
it's just
socialist.
like it would be just like trying to rename the South China Sea, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the name South China Sea it reflects the largest naval power that's in that particular area, but there's a whole bunch of other people that utilize that water, that body of water. The
Yeah, like Japan,
Vietnamese have
Korea.
one name for it. The Filipinos have another name for it. As far as I know, like those are the only two that I know of that have a different name for the South China Sea. But everywhere else that you get a map from, it's always the South China Sea. It doesn't belong to China. It just means that it's the largest naval power that utilizes that body of water.
Yeah.
And that's how it was named. So
Right.
yeah,
And
it's really arbitrary.
it's absolutely arbitrary. And historically, historically, Mexico back in the 1700s was a power, kind of, sort of, with the French, maybe, kind of. But when was the last time anyone was worried about France? Yeah,
Right.
there you go. Same thing with Mexico. If he wants to rename it and it catches on, fantastic. Changes nothing. Now, I know there are some who say, well, legal documents about drilling and mining and all, they're based on it's the Gulf of Mexico. So if you change that, that gets rid of all the laws. No, it doesn't.
No.
No, it doesn't. No, because the
No.
meaning and the geographics of the law do not change. The name changed. The geographics didn't. The laws binding the use of that geographic and that resource didn't change. The law doesn't change. It's just a name change, which is surface. And it will never hold up in a court of law to say, well, it's now the Gulf of America, so everything and nothing applies anymore. No, that's not true.
Yeah,
He's not doing it to get more oil. He's not.
Most of those resource contracts anyway use geological points like latitude and longitude.
Because you have to.
Right. So
like the 3 mile barrier.
Right.
There's a lot of Americans don't know this. American territory, the land of America, includes 3 miles out from the coast into the ocean.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why a lot of when we're talking about oil drilling and some of the regulations about the oceans are about pinpoint locations, because depending on where the coast is at any given moment, because of erosion, tides and such, that barrier, that limit of your national territory changes on any given day.
Right. Yeah, so you have to be more exact, and you're using geolocated coordinates rather than using names to guide by.
Yeah.
So the same thing for what was it? Is it also like an economic zone is like 20 miles out?
Yes.
So it's like the 3 miles is your country border, and then 20 miles beyond that is a like free economic zone, and then you're in international waters.
Yes. That is, as last I remember, now again, could have changed, but according to the laws that I'm aware of, yes, that's absolutely correct. So people are saying that again, there's a lot of hype behind this. There's a lot of news media saying, see, this is part of Trump is being a dictator. No, this is, I think the Gulf of America is just Trump trolling the news media to distract from trials and everything else that is his cabinet and whether or not they're going to get in. It's buying him time. It's a distraction. It's useless. Maj Toure, my friend Maj, had a wonderful comment about this, and I'm going to pull that up for you because I thought this was perfect answer to this, and most people aren't thinking about it. So what you're seeing right now, this is Maj, his Twitter account, his X account. And Maj says there, okay, do you want to rename the Gulf of Mexico? Do you want to call it the Gulf of America? Because it doesn't really change anything. It's just new words on a map. Big deal.
Right.
And the map makers, that whole business, the globe makers, they will love it. Everyone has to buy a brand new globe. You need a brand new map. They're going to make money. They love the idea.
Yeah.
But here's the big thing. Has nothing to do with the $37.6 trillion national debt. Has
Yep.
nothing to do with the energy needs of the United States. Has nothing to do with the global food crisis that we have 30% less food in the world today than we did in 2019. Has nothing to do with the war in the Ukraine or the hostages being held by Hamas. Has nothing to do with any of that. Who cares? Is it important? Not in the least. Call it whatever you want. I don't give a damn. It changes nothing. It is cosmetic.
Yep.
It's a distraction. Trump is trolling the news media.
Yeah, and you notice that now that they've been running with this, they aren't talking about Pete Hegseth. They're not talking about Kash Patel.
Nope.
They're not talking about Matt Gaetz or what Congress is doing. They're not talking about his endorsement of Johnson. And they're not talking about the discussions that are happening with people on X over things like H-1B visas. That's all gone. Now it's, oh my God, he's going after Greenland, Panama, Canada, and the Gulf of Mexico.
He's a demon. He's the devil. We told you he's the devil. Orange man bad. Hell isn't red. It's orange. Yeah, you know.
I bet you the people of California are willing to argue that point, though.
Again, Newsom. Yeah, you know,
They're-
right there.
They're on fire.
Exactly, because of the ineptitude of the policies of the progressive Newsom. Yeah, there you go.
You know,
The consequence of having an inept government.
it's funny. I actually went to the National Forestry Service because there was one of the state parks. I think it was Bighorn
Mhm.
Park that was on fire earlier last year, and it was something like 250,000 acres burned. So I actually went back to see how many what the acreage was for wildfires had been burned.
Mhm.
The National Forestry Service said it was 2 million more acres have been burned last year than in the last decade. We've had more wildfires in the United States
Mhm.
that's burned 2 million more acres than we have had in the last decade. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that didn't even make the news. Like, we're seeing it now because there are people in major urban areas that are now trapped by the fire. But what happened to all those other those 2 million other acres that were on fire that nobody even batted an eye over? The last big fire that we talked about last year was in Canada.
Yeah.
Because it was affecting urban areas where the smoke was coming down out of Canada.
Yeah, lasted a week
Yeah.
across the United States. Yeah, I remember that. But here's the thing. Why is that happening? Because we changed our forest management. We changed the water management in the West Coast. Which is all run by progressive liberals. Progressive, that's Newsom, that's Portland, Oregon, that's Washington State. They're all out of their mind. And they all change their policies because of climate change and the environment. And here's, your climate change kicking your ass.
Yep. How many metric tons of smoke are now going up into the air? Like, a lot of people are talking about extra precipitation. Well, where do you think that forms from? That forms from the amount of fuel that's been burning out west.
Yeah.
It's going to drop more in snow now.
Yeah. And this was preventable.
Yeah.
It was preventable. All we had to do is, instead of virtue signal about the law and the consequences, actually address the consequences. And then that would have resolved it.
Yep.
But, the left are too busy virtue signaling. And we've seen virtue signaling in every single instance that it has been used has been one rejected by the public and has always resulted in a negative consequence every single time.
Yep.
So now, and again, I think part of why everyone's going, the most recent one is the Gulf of America. Why is the left going so crazy about it? Because they don't want to talk about California and Governor Newsom. They don't want to talk about the bad policies. They don't want to talk about the increase of 18% of the number of homeless people in America under the Democrats, under the Biden-Harris rule. That's all on them. They do not want to address that. They do not want people to look at that stat. And when they do, they want people to think it's because of Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. Trump isn't elected. He hasn't been there for 4 years. They don't want anyone to think about that and go, Democrats were in charge. Biden, Harris. Harris is supposed to be such a genius. Biden is sharp as a tack, still is sharp as a tack. They keep saying that, even though the White House aides have come out and told us that on the first day that Joe Biden was in presidency, he had to be sheltered from the public because he wasn't having a good day, because he wasn't all mentally there. Day one. So they lie to us. And now they want us to believe, even though they've been caught in lie after lie after lie for a decade, and we've seen their failure empirically. This is empirical numbers of their failure for the last 4 years. Now we're supposed to go, but Trump, he's going to be a dictator because we said so.
Right.
Why should I believe you?
Yeah, there is no credibility left with that.
And again, if we're looking at it, in Trump, his history has been less war, less risk, less problems around the world, more peace. He actually did that. And we have
better trade, better economy.
Yep. And he would need the Congress to back any of these, world. America's going to be the North American empire, which I think sounds really cool. And I'm actually not against that. I think America is an empire, and I have no problem with the American empire. I like it. Let the American empire go on for another couple thousand years. I have no problem with that, as long as we follow the Constitution. But they completely are ignoring that absolute core thing that is critical. Congress has to vote for this. The American people have to support this. And he's not made the case to the American people to actually have a war. He's never said that. He's not gone to Congress about it. He hasn't hinted that he wants to change any law to cause this. The American people aren't, he hasn't told, it's not like he hasn't been talking to the American people. For 8 years, he's been talking to the American people every damn week. You think someone might have heard ahead of time that, Trump's going to, take over all of North America? You think that might have come up in at least one of his speeches, even a hint of it, somewhere in the last 8 years? Yeah, all the people who are buying the hype and getting freaked out, stop a second and think.
Yeah.
Stop with the emotion. Just think for a second. And remember, the people telling you this lied to your face for 4 years.
Yep.
Stop and think. Does this make any sense whatsoever? I mean, and if Trump turns out to factually, if he actually goes to Congress and says, I want to have a war with Greenland, yeah, I'll be right up in the front of the lines with everyone else and going, nope, too far. This is an overreach of power. We got a problem. I'll be the first one right there.
Yeah.
But I have no reason to believe that's going to happen.
No, and he is very much a populist. He likes it when people like him. So he's going to listen to the people because he wants to be liked. He doesn't want to be feared. He doesn't want to be hated in the sense that he is an authoritarian dictator. He wants to be loved, and he wants to be well known and have a great legacy. And coming from that's where, because he comes from that space, he's not going to advocate something that's going to hurt the people because he knows that would leave him with a bad legacy. He doesn't want that. He wants to go down in history as the golden boy. I
think he will. I think he absolutely will. And by the way, for people who are watching the show, and I love the comments, you're seeing us notice some of the people like Joel and Forrest, Mommy, Grace, and others who are watching the show, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. We all do. I know the whole channel, we all the channels, we appreciate our audience. But in all the comments I've made, whether it's on, and I've said some of these things on my channel, I've even gone to TikTok and talked about some of this stuff. Even there, I've yet to hear anyone say, oh, you just don't understand, Mike. You got it completely wrong. No one is saying, no one except the far left are saying, oh, Trump dictator, this is Empire of America is coming. No one believes it. Yes, countries around the world are saying, yeah, well, I don't, even Greenland and the Danish prime minister have said, yeah, this isn't going to be World War III. This is not going to be a war. We don't want to sell Greenland, but it's not going to be a war. They have published that. They have made that statement already. It's not going to be a war.
Yeah.
They know it. Yeah, I don't.
It's the classic tactic of fear mongering, and both sides engage in it. Both parties engage in it, and I think it's really crummy. When, like we were, what Frank and I were talking about earlier, you want good ideas to float to the top, and good ideas don't need to be promoted. They promote themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that Trump is so successful is because he has good ideas that resonate with the people. The people like them, which is why they voted for him to go back to the White House. So as long as he has good ideas, he'll have support. If he has a bad idea, there will be no support. Even from his most ardent supporters. They're the first ones that will be like, I don't like that. They may not hate the man, but they won't like his ideas. And they won't give him the support for a bad idea.
They're not bashful.
No.
The right is not bashful. They will speak up. They do, yes, we have right-leaning protests too. Guess what? They don't result in arson. They don't result in burnt down cities. They don't result in dead people. Yeah. Even if you want to say that day in January, because we still have to deal with the censors. So even that day in January, guess what? DC didn't burn down. Right. The Congress didn't burn down. The only people who were killed were American citizens, and the government killed them. Yep. That's it. That's the reality. That's the truth. That's what 4,000 hours of video have shown us.
Yep.
The narrative from the left fails again every single time because they only have fear and emotion. And the moment you stop and look at the facts, they're wrong. And I am more than happy on my channel, this channel, anywhere. If someone thinks I'm wrong, if there's some leftist out there, if there's an elected official, especially a Democrat that's out there and says, you just don't get it, I will be happy to give you as much time as you need. I am sure everyone in Liberty First Foundation will be happy to give you as long as you need to prove us wrong. There is zero evidence of what the media is putting out there now. It is literally half a step away. I don't use this term lightly, but it is half a step away from treason. They're trying to turn the American people against our own government because Trump's involved.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, well, we're more than happy to give anybody the time they need to be able to explain themselves, but they have to come with receipts. Like true receipts. You don't have the receipts, then all you have is emotion and hyperbole. And that doesn't fly because it's not the truth.
Yeah. And then go, oh, but I feel fantastic. I got my own feelings. I don't need yours.
Right.
and feelings don't resolve anything. It's not going to turn a wrench. It's not going to protect the city. It's not going to turn on the lights. I don't care about your feelings.
Right.
And
that's
I don't
like
mean that.
Saying, I feel like New York City is safe. Meanwhile, the lady behind her on the train is on fire.
Yeah.
You see that meme? That was a good one.
Yeah. I feel so safe, and warm. Got some marshmallows.
Yeah.
That's so much for feelings. Next. So that's kind of funny. And by the way, in speaking about the restriction on certain words, which is why our channel gets suppressed, That's Liberty First. That's me with no sound bites. Everybody gets, when you have honest conversations with people, which sometimes can be uncomfortable. Sometimes people don't agree. That's okay. If we keep our principles, if we're talking about facts and we're talking about details, we can all have different interpretations, but let's have those conversations because that's how we get results. That's how we get an effective and efficient government. But guess who suddenly said, you know what? That is a good idea. Maybe we should have more conversations. Maybe the American people should be able to have free speech. Do you know who said that recently?
No, I didn't.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. The android of social media.
Yeah. Facebook himself comes out and he says, and I'm nearly quoting him, it was 2 days ago, Monday, and he comes out and says, the fact checkers we have, well, they're politically biased. And we just figured it out. It's only been years. We've only had them for like 4 years. And we suddenly just figured out the fact checkers, yeah, they're all biased. And they were, and our AI that we put together, yeah, that was biased too. And they were unfairly, millions of people were innocent. These are his words, millions of innocent users of Facebook were being shut down and kicked off because of the AI. You don't say. I'm so surprised. By the way,
how many years, Mike? How many years have we been saying this?
I've been saying it since 2000. Actually, I went back. I have articles on this from 2013. I have videos on this from 2017 talking about these very same restrictions, these same suppression. So, yeah, for me, it's somewhere around a decade of saying this.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, it's like you didn't know what you're talking about, but now you do. Now, in 2025, you know what? You might have something there, Mike. Yeah, you guys, Liberty First. Yeah, the First Amendment argument might be a kernel of truth in that. So he's now reversed himself and admits that the censorship that he went to Congress, Zuckerberg should be charged with perjury. He went to Congress in congressional hearings in 18, 19, and 20, and 17, as a matter of fact, and 17 as well, and told the Congress that the algorithms were not biased, that the AI was not biased, that they were protecting free speech. 2025, 2 days ago, he admitted there was bias, that the fact checkers and the AI and the algorithm were unfairly affecting innocent people in Americans and denying them their First Amendment. That is perjury, and he should go to jail.
He was under oath for those, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's perjury. Yeah.
He was under oath. It is perjury. We now have from his own words. He's like, it was a mistake. They accidentally misidentified all these people because, the only misinformation, the only disinformation was coming from Facebook because that's what and we know from 2023, he told us, 2024, Mark Zuckerberg came out and told us, oh, by the way, the White House made me do it. The White House pressured them.
Well, he threw the Biden admin under the bus.
That was last year. Remember it? Remember?
Yeah.
He admitted last year, like we all said, like we said here on this channel, you can go back and see the videos. You can see it. We said, this is the White House censoring the public because how dare you question science himself, Dr. F. I can't mention his name or because YouTube and Google still believe in suppressing everyone. But yeah, science himself was unassailable. Mind you, today we know everything that he said was absolutely wrong, and the exact reverse is actually true. And everything that Mr. Science himself said, everything that Biden said about what Mr. Science himself said, absolutely wrong.
Yep.
And they've been punishing people, millions of people, silencing people, ostracizing people, causing people to get divorced, causing people to lose their girlfriends and boyfriends and significant others, teaching kids to hate other people because they lied. They got it wrong. Yeah, he should go to jail for perjury because that's harm. He literally harmed America and the world.
Yep. And that's where we're at, folks. Now we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because I got to get going.
No problem. I obviously I came back. I had to like cram everything together.
Yeah. So thank you again for joining us, everybody that's been in the chat and giving comments. Those of you that have been watching, this has been the Liberty First Foundation's Roundtable for the second week of January now.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you spending the evening with us while we talk about various current events through a constitutional lens and from the Liberty First principled position. If you want to check us out, go to l1fs.us. That's our website where you can join us. It's $15 a year annually. Get involved with a group that's constitutional. It's the only way that America is going to stop the shenanigans of our government and actually put the power back to the people and get America back on the track of greatness that we were destined for when the founders created us. So once again, from all of us here at Liberty First Foundation, thank you very much and have a very fine evening. I think you will have to stop it because I don't know